Welcome to Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered with Perry Clark. This program looks at mental health from unique perspectives and shows you how to manage your life by finding the knots that help you and stay away from the ones that could be a disadvantage. Now, here is your host, Perry Clark.
Hello, welcome back to Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. I'm Perry Clark, licensed marriage and family therapist. If I sound a little off right now, my asthma is causing some difficulties, so please forgive me if you start hearing me cough during the recording of this. I want to remind everyone, as always, that this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes. It does not constitute working with a licensed professional. Please seek one out in your area or online within your state to work on your unique issues. And so I also have to do a small little vamping here for one of my own little projects that is going on over at, which can be found on DriveThruRPG, part of the Miskatonic Repository, a group of scenario writers for Call of Cthulhu wrote 12 scenarios called The Year of the Goat. And it's 12 different scenarios crossing of multiple times, but all of which are in connection to the Black Goat of the Wood, which is a Call of Cthulhu monster. And I have a particular piece in there as well. My piece is called Dead Letters from the Orchard. So please check it out on DriveThruRPG. Now, that said, and sticking with the sort of spooky theme, today we're here to talk with our guests about the 4 Seasons of Horror, a year of queer horror. 4 Seasons of Fear, a year of queer horror is an LGBT plus horror comic anthology from award-winning publishers Stack Deck Press, which if you've listened to some of our past ones, you know that we have a relationship in supporting their works when we can.
And we love that. Thank you.
Thank you, too. It features horror stories from queer perspectives that draw inspiration from holidays and seasonal activities. 4 Seasons of Fear will feature work from over 24 all LGBT plus comic creators, including such notables as Josh Trujillo, David Bohier, and Wilfred Santiago, filmmaker and podcaster Michael Vitari, and cartoonist Tara Madison Avery will be handling editing details on this project. Stories in the 4 Seasons of Fear will be based on popular holidays such as Christmas, Easter, Halloween, some slightly less celebrated ones such as May Day, Juneteenth, and Rosh Hashanah, and seasonal events such as going back to school. The book will be a full-color, standard comic-sized paperback projected to be roughly 200 pages in length. And some of the contributors, because I read half the list in their other episodes, so I'm going to read the rest of it here. Victor T. Kernan and Antonio Brandu, Mac McLean, John Macy, Awana Mace, mentioned Wilfred Santiago, and one of our people we'll be talking today is Sonya Saturday. William O'Taylor, Michael Vitari, and Brandon Hale, and Aline Wahab. So, and as I said, our guests for today are Sonya Saturday and Tara Madison Avery. Welcome back for Tara, welcome back to Untying Knots, and Sonya, welcome as well. And it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us here.
Not a problem. I'd like to support the work when I can.
Yeah. Well, we're hard at work here on 4 Seasons of Fear, as you've noted, and we've managed to collect a murderer's row of comics professionals, both in the indie realms and from the quote mainstream unquote. And we've been trying to get a good mix of styles, and also as the premise would suggest, seeing as we're trying to reflect the events you would find in a calendar year. A good mix of the sorts of holidays and seasonal events that could make for good queer horror. We decided on the calendar theme, Michael and I, that because there have already been queer horror comics anthologies. I've even been in one. Sonya, I'm sure you have too. Yes. So the thing was, we wanted to, perhaps not. One thing we wanted to do is come up with an angle that would make this one new and fresh. And the idea that we could focus on the sorts of events, holidays, which can be especially stressful, even frightening for queer people when interacting with family, would distinguish it from its predecessors.
Very nice. But as always, which will talk further about the project. Also, let's learn a little bit about each of you. So how did you guys get here, whether it's part of the project or some element of your life that you're open to sharing so that people understand who is also putting their work into this project? Would you ever like to go first?
Sure. Hi, this is Sonya. I got involved in this project because Tara is one of my longtime publishers, Stack Deck Press. And I've been doing comics for, I don't know, since the early 2000s, doing independent comics. Started doing kind of like web comics, newspaper comics, that sort of thing. And I always sort of dabbled in horror. I've always really been interested in horror. I'm a big horror fan, especially love reading Lovecraft, that type of stuff. And so, Tara mentioned that this project was coming up and seemed right in my wheelhouse. So I was like, yeah, I absolutely do have an idea for a holiday themed horror story, queer horror story. So yeah, count me in.
Yeah, if you've ever visited Sonya's place, it's spooky central. There's all sorts of horror and gruesome paraphernalia lying around, and I thought, well, she's got to have an idea for this. So, and so she does. So there we go.
Luckily, I did. It was kind of an autobiographical story that I'd kind of just like been keeping in my back pocket for a while, just like looking for the right time to tell.
Nice. And what about you, Tara?
Well, I am not a huge horror person, but so many of my friends and my partners just adore horror, and I thought, why not? And Michael is very talented and very accomplished as a screenwriter and director and a podcaster, and I just thought he wants to do a book. It was he brought it up, and we put it off for a couple years because I had other projects in the works, and then we finally said, let's tally ho, let's do this. So we rounded up the usual and unusual suspects. I come to it, I similar to Sonya. In the aughts, I was doing web comics and publishing the occasional thing in a local alt newspaper, but I think Sonya had much greater success with publishing in the alt weeklies than I. But yeah, I kind of a similar path, and then I started Stack Tech Press a little over 10 years ago. And that was sort of backing into, I guess, something that's become kind of like a career. Is that I work for a nonprofit organization called Prism Comics that promotes LGBTQ, AIU, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Rho comics creators and fandom, and they wanted to publish a book to sort of commemorate the Queer Press grant that they used to give out to up and coming creators back before crowdfunding kind of made it obsolete.
Right.
And the publisher that they had lined up to publish the book had fallen out, and so I said, I'll start a publishing company, and then chaos ensued, and 10 plus years later, here we are. So,
and fortunate you are, because you've been able to provide a voice for people.
Well, that's what I like to do. I like to give people a chance to do the kind of work that they do best.
Right. So let's talk a bit more about this project itself, because I know we've sort of been touching on it here and there, but more in focused, and give us the pitch about it beyond what I just read.
Well, we have a broad variety of holidays. We've got your basic Christmas, we got your Easter, we got your we got your 4th of July, which Sonya can tell you more about since that is her domain. But we also wanted to get some other events and other holidays that are maybe less known to the average reader, that don't really maybe your average comics reader hasn't come up with. So we've got Rosh Hashanah, which is not something you see a lot of stories about, or or towards TV specials. There's no Rankin-based puppet special about Rosh Hashanah like Christmas and Easter and all that stuff. So And then we have an Indian cartoonist or cartoonist of Indian descent currently living in New Zealand, doing a story about an Indian holiday called Holi, which Holi, which in sort of a celebration of color. And then I dipped into history, and I am, by the way, the people, the other person who thinks about the Roman Empire a lot. I'm that person. If in any friend group, I'm that person. So I decided to do a story about the Roman predecessor to Valentine's Day called Lupercalia, which was a much more festive occasion in ancient Rome. It involved sacrificing animals and slapping people with strips of bloody hide while running around naked. And it's a shame we've lost some of those things. But yeah, that's kind of the. But then we also have things back to school. First snowfall of winter, and we found horror writers, we found cartoonists, we found all kinds of people to contribute.
Nice. Sonya, anything you'd like to add to the overall project?
Well, I mean, as Tara mentioned, that the holiday I picked is the 4th of July because, like I said, I have a semi-true story about something that happened to me on the 4th of July about 10 years ago. And also kind of fit with another aspect of my work where I've about half of the work I've done over the years has been about like relationship, sex, gender, that sort of thing. And the other half has sort of been about politics and political stuff. Like I've done a couple of like political themed coloring books, and I did a whole other comic strip that was all like political satire a long time ago. So this doing one where it's like both queer and horror and sort of about an important American holiday, it all seemed like it would fit together really well with like all the things that I like to make my work about. So this story in particular is just something that happened to me and my roommate at the time, and we were living in West Hollywood, and we went up on the roof of the building to watch fireworks, and scary things happened. So over there, yeah.
So, which is good, and we'll talk a bit more as we go on later on. The nature of horror seems like an interesting place to be talking about our experiences LGBT plus, as opposed to, and as you said, there's plenty of anthologies out there. I'm sure there's many talking about love and forgiveness and grief and such, but horror itself.
Well, the nature of a holiday usually is that you sort of return to family, and for those who return to maybe their family of birth, that there are members that are not quite comfortable or accepting of their queer identity, and so I do believe that these sorts of tensions, the sort of the conflict between being queer in a straight world, is a particularly acute at the time of holidays, especially the Christmases, the Thanksgivings, the ones where everybody travels to gather around the family homestead, and I think that gives us great opportunities to find scary things, and maybe even things that are scary and funny at the same time, as one of our proposed Thanksgiving stories might have. It also. Queer folks, because that maybe they don't return to home to see the family of birth, due to being ostracized. So, like the one Thanksgiving story I would mention before is going to be a Friendsgiving story about how a group of queer foodies can ruin your Thanksgiving dinner. And the turkey comes, and the turkey acts in vengeance. So,
well, I'm looking forward to reading this, and I so very much will be putting my money behind it.
Yeah,
when it launches on Kickstarter. And when do you expect it's going to launch?
We are looking for a launch in June. I have had quite a few book events this month, and have also been helping Prism Comics launch. Put on their annual convention in West Hollywood, QCon. So my dance card has been very full this month, so I haven't had as much time as I would like to focus on building the quick Kickstarter campaign, and Michael and I are coming to a complete stop here with some of these other activities, and we'll be diving into that. We want to launch in June, and we'll be. We also had to find some new personnel, some important contributors who are unable to, had to drop out, were unable to contribute, and we had to find other people to cover the holidays or seasonal. They were working on. So the usual mission creep happens when you're putting together an anthology, because there are lots of moving parts.
True, very true. So we can now dive a bit more into each of your individual contributions. Do you want to tell us more about the adventures on that rooftop, or anything else connected to 4th of July, Sonya?
Well, you know what? The thing about the rooftop is that the story starts slightly before that, where it's I don't know how much of it I want to give away ahead of time. But let's say I was getting home and meeting my roommate and her boyfriend, and they had purchased some various substances from a park in San Francisco that we were looking forward to taking before we went up and looking at fireworks. And gotcha. And so, like any good horror story, especially like kind of if you look at like 80s horror films that are like about teenagers getting into trouble, usually it starts with like some sexy stuff, and that's like, or them doing some substances or whatever. And that's why, of course it's their fault that all the terrible things happen to them. So my story kind of goes in the same way. It's me and my roommate and my roommate's boyfriend taking some of the stuff and doing some things together, and then going up and seeing fireworks, and then the bad stuff happens because clearly we are asking for it. Yeah. But it's also, it's kind of the story's kind of politically. It's got these political undertones to it because, like I said, it is the 4th of July, and it takes place on July 4th, 2016, which was before a very important presidential election, which was just a few months before things really started to change. So there's kind of an undercurrent of that going through the story. There's like moments where, my roommate's, talking about pretty soon we're going to have our first female president and everything's going to be incredible and that sort of stuff. And then, so just like real life, the story doesn't really go the way we were all hoping. So yeah, it's got that mixture of like political stuff and also, there's like a big scary monster that shows up at some point and horrible things that happen, and it's a lot of fun. It gets really gross later on, so I'm pretty happy about that.
And how about some bits about Lupercalia?
Lupercalia. Well, one of the aspects of Lupercalia, aside from the blood and nakedness, is there's a lottery. So that the names of young women are placed in a lottery, and the young men who, with their strips of hide and their birthday suits, draw a name, and they are to sort of woo this woman. They're to woo this young woman. In the case of this story, we open with a young woman who has a quote special friendship unquote with another young woman, and the mother is very disapproving because the mother feels that it's the young woman's duty to support her family by marrying a well-connected man from a good family, and that she has placed her name in the lottery, and that she must accept the hand of the individual who draws it. This is popular neither with neither of the young ladies, and especially the strange young lady who that is the girlfriend, who has no known family and has a very mysterious past, and the horror element revolves around the true identity of this young woman who has said that my family is strong and older than Rome itself, but nobody knows what that is. I'm also doing Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving we had to sort of reassign it, and so I came up with the notion we do the Foodie Friends, Foodie Friendsgiving, and I think like a lot of us, we really I make Thanksgiving for my family every year, and so Thanksgiving dinner. So I like the traditional stuff. I like the turkey. I like the potatoes. I like the stuffing. I like the broccoli. I like the Brussels sprouts with the bacon on it. I like that stuff, And so, but we have a lot of, very, very creative people in our community who are very, very culinarily gifted. And or they have, maybe vegetarian or vegan requirements for their Thanksgiving, something which is alien to me. That should not be part of Thanksgiving, just for personal preference. So I imagine sort of a world in which the foodies put the turkey through several transformations, and its vengeful spirit returns to dispatch those who have ruined the meal. And so that's how we're going with it. Where much is in Sonia's story, the queer foodies get what's coming to them for screwing with the order of nature, my turkey. So, yeah.
Oh, that's something. Which actually makes me think of, because you mentioned the 80s and horror, how that started in characters. And I got to support a friend as well, who also one of the people that's in the anthology with me. I know that they have written a couple of other ones, one of which is their homage and honorific to 80s slashers movie called Saturday the 14th. And they also have another one called Friends of Dorothy. And these are on the Miskatonic repository, Drive-Thru RPD, done by Maverick Hinsey. So these themes are things that we've all worked with in some shape, way, or form as we move forward in all of this. So what would you want folks to, how do you want people to share it? How do you want them to take this in? I think when I was talking to Michael, he suggested you could read it all straight through, or you could read it throughout the year. How do you guys want to take people to take your work in?
Well, you read my story first.
You could make that happen. You could make you're the publisher. Yours could be the first one in the book. That's totally doable, Tara.
I'm not as ego driven as that. Maybe I ought to be.
For mine, I think people should read it. Well, first think about reading Tara's comic, but then really go read mine. Then really, and I don't know. You can read mine once a month. Actually, you can read every story for the holiday that it's appropriate for, and then read mine again because it's just going to be that great. It's like, oh, let me read Sonya's again. What a romp! What a fun time that was. Let's go back to that.
Nice.
Yeah. It's an anthology. I mean, I think people can dip around, flip to the things that catch their eye, but eventually, I'm sort of, a stick in the mud. I just read them cover to cover. I don't, I'm that person, so I don't really bounce around. But yeah, one of the things about an anthology is that once you've absorbed it all, that you might return to it for certain stories or moments that are particularly interesting for you. I know that when I read an anthology, there are times like, oh yeah, but this story is the one that said something to me, or had some tasty artwork or something that really brings me back to it. And that's the nature of the beast.
Nice.
I think I'm not sure how many Stack Deck Press anthologies I've had stories in at this point, but I'm so looking forward to this one that this might be the first one I actually read. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. It's like I'll be up. I'm in an anthology that's up for not my own, but another anthology that's up for a Lambda. I think you know which one, Sonya. And admittedly, I've read the stories by myself and my friends, and I have not read any of the other material yet, and I have it on my reading list. It's been sitting on my little pile of stuff to read here on my bed for months that I have not gotten around to it. But that's not the way to read an anthology. I don't think. I think I need to be a little more. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to really, really care about all the work that all of the hardworking artists put into it. But really, the most important thing is that people, support the Kickstarter.
Yes.
Put their money in. then from that point on, you could do whatever you want with it.
Use it as a doorstop as long as you got it. I don't care. It's fine. I hope you wouldn't, but
right.
But yeah, everybody, shred it and use it for kitty litter.
But we put a lot of effort into this.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be high quality.
Yeah,
it's worth reading.
We try to We try to make a good product. We get our share of flowers from in the form of awards and nominations. So
lovely.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a perfect place for us to take a break.
All right.
We're going to come back here for our second half here on Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. I'm Perry Clark, licensed marriage and family therapist, here with Sonya Saturday, artist, and Tara Madison Avery, artist. So stay tuned, folks. We'll be back shortly.
Discover the power of music to heal and uplift. Introducing NeuroVibe, where rhythm meets recovery. NeuroVibe fuses ambient music textures with rhythmic layers to create music that goes beyond relaxation. It's crafted to resonate deeply, perfect for relaxation, self-reflection, or therapeutic sessions. NeuroVibe invites you to connect with your inner self through immersive sound. Explore NeuroVibe today on SoundCloud and experience the transformative power of music. Tune in, find your vibe, and discover what NeuroVibe can do for you. For more information, check out NeuroVibe on SoundCloud today at soundcloud.com/NeuroVibe Brainspotting. NeuroVibe is intended for general wellness and relaxation purposes and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Explore NeuroVibe now on SoundCloud. Dive in, find your rhythm, and feel better with NeuroVibe.
Our lives and the world around us can get messy and frustrating. Untangle and Grow Counseling's focus is to untangle that mess and make sense of it so you have a good foundation to build and grow from. Visit us on the web at untangleandgrowcounseling.com. Perry Clark offers individual psychotherapy, couples and family therapy, and adolescence therapy from a variety of coping materials and resources. Visit untangleandgrowcounseling.com for more information.
Follow Voice America at facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
You are listening to Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. If you have a question or comment about our podcast, send an email to pclark@untyingknotspodcast.com. That's pclark@untyingknotspodcast.com. And now, back to the program.
Hello all, welcome back to Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. I'm Perry Clark, licensed marriage and family therapist, here with you. And we're back with our artists, Sonya Saturday and Tara Madison Avery, who are part of the 4 Seasons of Fear, which is a queer holiday anthology of horror. So we've talked a bit about that, and that's going to be launching here in June, which is also when our episode is going to be done. But what else is in the pipeline? What are other projects that we can be looking for you? Things you'd also want to let people know are out there so that they can continue to follow and follow your work.
Well, I've actually had the good fortune to be part of a couple of projects that have recently hit the stands, and one of them creates a sort of Sophie's Choice of a kind. I contributed a story to Queers at the Table, which is an anthology published by Arsenal Pulp Press, and also put together in conjunction with McGill University up in Montreal, and it's an anthology that combines comic stories, food writing by queer authors and queer food critics, and recipes from queer chefs. So it's definitely the sort of thing that was cooked up in an academic's lab if you get all those things mixed together. But it has recipes, it has fascinating insights about food, and it also has really good comic stories. And so my role in that was not only to contribute a story about baking. I bake bread rather regularly, and when I visit my polycule, or friends with young members of my polycule who live in the Bay Area, or rather, I should say Sacramento, not the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. Usually I usually visit both in a loop when I go up, is that they say you got to make shokupan for us. You got to make us X amount of loaves of shokupan. It's Japanese milk bread, and they like how I make it. So once I get a chance to sleep, they hand me their pans, and I'm in the kitchen for an entire day whipping up bread. So and that was what I was about. But another function I had on that book was to sort of be the cartoonist wrangler. Each of the chapters in Queer at the Table focuses on a different theme, a different aspect of a queer community's relationship with food. And so we had to find cartoonists that fit the bill. In particular, how being HIV positive might change your diet.
Mm-hmm.
Find a cartoonist who was capable of speaking to that with authority. So I was, and I also, used my feminine wiles or cred or whatever the hell it is I got to recruit a couple of bigger names to the book that really help it be the best it can be. And Sophie's Choice is involved is that as I mentioned, the Lambdas are coming up next month.
Mm-hmm.
And this year the Lambdas have not only nominated our previous anthology, my previously published anthology, Come Out and Play, the Queer Sports Project, filled with stories about queer people and their relationship with athletics, but they also nominated Queers at the Table, and we're both up for the same LGBTQ anthology award at the Lammies, and I want to win. And I guess I can be pleased if Queers at the Table wins the Lammy, but I want my book to win, because I think I'm due.
Right.
Yes, but we'll.
For those that aren't familiar, what is the Lammies?
The Lambda Literary Awards. They're queer literature awards. They've been around for decades now, and as mentioned previously, Stack Deck Press. This will be Stack Deck Press's 6th Lambda Literary Award nomination, and we're 0 for 5 so far. So if I really want this one, I really want it. It's just now it didn't matter to me when I missed the first one, but now it's like a decade later, and I'm like piling up the little noms, and I want to win one. But that's that. And another thing that you might find my imprimatur on in recent publication is the annotated edition of Genderqueer, my co-babe's graphic memoir, the most banned comic in America. Maybe Mouse is Mouse more banned now, Sonya? They start banning Mouse again, didn't they? So maybe
did they ever stop banning Mouse?
I guess not. No. So, but yeah, they wanted an edited edition, so the editors, rounded up the usuals, like the usual suspects. I think Maya had a lot of people he wanted to include, and I was fortunate enough to be chosen. And I offered probably some of the least intellectual annotations, basically points of fact about some of the people mentioned in the book, or some of the events mentioned in the book, and I even probably this may seem like Captain Obvious thing, but like when David Bowie is mentioned, I wrote a very brief annotation as to who David Bowie is, because Genderqueer appeals to a younger reader. David Bowie's been gone for 10 years, and somebody picking up Genderqueer as a teenager right now may have little or no idea who David Bowie was. So to us, it's obvious. We grew up listening to David Bowie in one incarnation or another, seeing him on television or even in the movies. But to somebody who's 15 years old now, may not know. So that and other details, like Maya was brought up in the Waldorf educational system, and I made a little note about that. So yeah, it's an honor to be in there. My contribution is minimal compared to some other folks, but it's out there and it's coming. It has been recently published. So yes, the annotated Genderqueer is something you might want to check out.
Mm-hmm. I know Michael and I were talking when we were recording their episode, and we were talking about Watchmen, and we're not the HBO series, but when the movie came out, I pointed out is like how many people would understand Lee Iacocca getting shot up and the nature of what he represented to the American auto industry at that time in this day and age.
Yeah.
So just like, yeah, that's an interesting one to deal with how does these elements of the past still connect with us now?
Right.
What about for you, Sonia? What are some upcoming projects, things that you get a chance to toot your horn for?
Well, I've been doing this ongoing autobiographical series called The Greatest Thing You've Ever Seen in Your Life. I started putting out as kind of short strips just on like my Instagram maybe 5-6 years ago, just like a thing to do on the side. And it sort of became my primary thing at this point. So I just put out the third print issue myself just a few months ago, actually. And it kind of skips around throughout my life. It's like I said, I've taken the strip format for it, where I'm kind of following in the footsteps of someone like R. Crumb or somebody like that who tells autobiographical stories, but in like a very short format, and then like we'll collect it in a comic book. So, I tell stories about like my life, like right now, about like living in Hollywood and being like a goth person and a trans person and a queer person, navigating just like LA and Hollywood and all the scenes in there. And then some of it takes place, like my childhood growing up, like in a conservative community in North Florida. And, I try to keep it all pretty light and pretty funny. I tend to have a fairly, I don't know, snarky, undercutting sense of humor, especially about my own life and about my own experiences. So it's not exactly serious. I talk about things that are serious to me, but it's hard for me to do it without making a joke every single time. Especially since, like I had mentioned earlier, I kind of came up in the alternative comics scene, like newspaper comics, that sort of thing. I mean, that's what I had aimed for when I first started drawing comics, or like strips around 2000, the year 2000, which was strips for like alternative Newsweekly magazines and that sort of thing. So I'm very comfortable telling like a short story or making a joke, like punchlines. So even now when I'm like telling autobiographical stories that may go on for a couple pages, I still look for a way to end it with some sort of joke or some sort of punchline or something surprising at the end to kind of tie it together, because that's really just the tradition I came out of. So one of the most recent issue, actually, I put in it the story that I did for Come Out and Play, the queer sports project, because that was an autobiographical story. So it made sense to put it in with my other autobiographical stories. So, as far as like which of the books that Tara's involved in gets wins an award, my personal preference is the one that I'm involved in. So hopefully Come Out and Play, gets its moment, because that's an excellent book.
Well, to either one, to the best one wins. But either way, you're both successes by making it there. Right.
Absolutely. It's an honor for Tara to be nominated.
It's an honor to lose the Lammy 6 times. No, to lose this time. Another thing I love about Sonya's autobiographical comics, excuse me, is that often autobiographical comics are very self-serious, and they're very like they seem. I don't know, a little.
They seem like they're reaching out for somebody to just annotate them, because they're so important and in depth.
You really need some academics
hidey that like I need to invite like 30 people to write about my life story because I'm so important. I don't know why there would ever be a book like that.
Yeah, one day we will do the annotated, the greatest thing you've ever seen in your life.
I hope I'm dead before that. I hope I'm dead before that happens.
We'll write very high-minded things about it in the margins. It'll be wonderful.
That'll be great for my grandchildren.
Yeah, Sonya's comics are funny, and that's something that you don't get enough of, I think, in autobiographical comics. They can be very, very serious and like, the things that I've seen, And Sonya does have the serious stuff, the stuff that's very important and very personal, but you laugh, you really laugh, and I think that's something that's not common enough for me, for my taste. So
thank you, Tara. I find that like life is hard enough, and the way to get through it, in my opinion, is to just like try to laugh through it. Like you can appreciate the light things and the dark things kind of at the same time because they go hand in hand. So like if you're going to like tell a story about life, it doesn't all have to be darkness because that's just not life. You can tell both. So I don't want to just bring people down. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a relationship with both.
Yeah, and
that place in between.
Yeah, and as far as like Tara was saying, there's a lot of like memoir stuff, a lot of autobiographical stuff out there that does take itself so seriously that I feel like it doesn't. I don't know. It kind of. I'm sure there's like every artist, like every person will contain multitudes. They can have their dark moments and their light moments, and I feel like if you're just focused on the dark stuff that happens to you, I mean that's an intentional choice that you're gonna make as an artist, and if that's what you want to put out in the world is mostly just like complaints and grievances and woe is me, like you can do that. But for me, I would like something that's a bit more rounded and will actually hopefully uplift people as opposed to being like, wow, it really sucked for that person. Glad I'm not them.
All right. Well, anything else you guys want to showcase and let people know that's coming and such? And
well, we have another once we've almost all of the stories for 4 seasons if you are finished, or at least close enough that we're within spitting distance of it, so that we will be in a very good place when we launch the Kickstarter. So what Stack Deck Press has on after that is the third entry in a series of comics that was initially conceived and executed by Josh Trujillo, our friend, who is a Marvel and DC writer and also an aficionado of history. And so these are called the Death Saves series. All right. The Death Saves series are about the unlikely, ironic or gruesome fates of beloved RPG characters, tabletop and computer. The first one was called Death Saves, which focused almost exclusively on like Dungeons and Dragons, tabletop Dungeons and Dragons. The second one was called Advanced Death Saves. For those of you who grew up playing D&D can catch the reference there. And that expanded it to other kinds of tabletop RPGs. So there was sci-fi, superhero, you name it. And that became and now Josh and I have been talking about doing a third edition of it for years. And now the tabletop RPGs are having a bit of a renaissance and computer gaming is crazy popular. We said, okay, we want to do another one, and we want to make sure we expand it to the computer realm. So now we've got Death Saves 3rd edition, and so another cheeky reference to how the naming conventions of popular RPG games, and so we're launching that. And once again, we put out the bat signal, and I am doing a story about. As a D&D player, I've been playing with the group of pretty much been the same since the late 80s, and one of the individuals I've been playing D&D with since he taught it to me in 1983. So there was, but over this time, I had like until like 2016, I had not had the opportunity to create a character consistent with my gender identity, and so. There is a certain irony in how that character met her fate, and how that character returned to the campaign that will be revealed in my story, and also just a bit of a tribute to the dungeon master of that campaign, who was our dungeon master from 1988 until his death in 2021. Oof. And so we got 2 deaths. We got the character death, and then we got the death of Kevin the DM. And so it's a tribute to both how deadly and lethal his campaign environment was, which drove several players out of his game, but kept the hardcore nerds involved, like my friend Brett and myself, and then of course to Kevin himself. Yeah, that's what I'm doing for that. Yeah,
perfect. Well, where can folks find you if they want to read more of the stuff that you're putting out there, both past and stuff that will be coming?
Well, I don't get out much. You can find me at my house. No, but seriously, we're going to be, as Sonya mentioned earlier, we're doing QCon. We're doing San Diego Comic-Con this weekend. Anybody in the Riverside, I don't know when this will air, but we will be doing Riverside Pride here in Riverside, California.
So they can air the 2nd and 3rd week of June.
Yes.
So we got QCon June 20th.
Yeah.
So that's going to be in West Hollywood. It's QCon. So
Yeah.
Plumber Park. Don't miss that. It's great every year. I'll be there. I'll have my stuff, table. Tara will be there. Stack Deck Press, Prism Comics.
Sonya gets the catbird seat. She's like right as you walk in. That way you can give her all of your money, and then you can browse the rest of the show.
In fact, it's required for you to get in. Like there's a little bucket right there that says no entry.
The
admission's free. The admission's free, but you have to pay the Sonya. Let's call it the Sonya tariff.
That's right.
It's politically charged. Yeah. Let's see. So there's that. We got San Diego Comic-Con. We'll both be there. Mm-hmm. You can find me here in Hollywood for anybody who wants to come out to like a goth club. I tend to have I've been venting at Club Bar Sinister Goth Club Saturday nights about once a month. So if anybody wants to if you follow my Instagram, Sonya Saturday Art, that has I update people on when I'm going to be there. And for anybody who's a member of the National Cartoonist Society and you're going to be at the conference in Columbus, Ohio in August, I'm one of a handful of people that's going to be giving a short talk on that Friday. I don't know how much I don't think they've fully announced this part of it yet. I think they might be saying more about it publicly the day after we record this. So this will be out by then. Yeah. But yeah, I'm giving a short talk. They're called Toon Talks. It's modeled after TED Talks. So
right.
Will this be streaming after? Because I'm not going to make it to Columbus. Sorry, but I would like to see your talk.
That I don't know, but I'm hoping they record them. I guess I'll find out more closer to the dates. But there's still a few months away. But I'm very excited about that. Pretty sure I might be following Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield.
Oh my.
So yeah, I don't know if I'm directly following him, but I know this whole segment is this whole thing of the cartoonist talking is following him.
At least you're not going to be following anybody who gets laughs.
Bada boom.
His stuff's so funny it deserves to be annotated.
Yeah. So anyway,
okay. Let me see how many people I can offend right now.
Another one more thing is that Prism is going to do its first Anaheim Fan Expo Anaheim, and you can find me at the Prism Comics booth there, and I can proselytize about Prism and all the good it does for comics and queer comics, but also there will be a curated selection of Stack Deck Press titles, including the recent Eisner nominees, and Come Out and Play and Oops, I Just Catharted by Rupert Kennard, whom you're familiar with, Larry. Yep. So join us at Fan Expo Anaheim as well. So
when is that?
That is the 26th, the weekend after QCon, so 26th through 28th.
Yeah, so this will be available by then.
Yeah, Fan Expo Anaheim, San Diego, and then you can enjoy you can go to the beach or something, but you got to go to those, all you guys.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, going to get on my own little soapbox here to talk about, again, the Year of the Black Goat, or the Year of the Goat for Miskatonic Repository. Since we've also talked about gaming as well here, the anthology that can be found on DriveThruRP, which I have a piece in called Dead Letters from the Orchard, as well as one of my co-presenters in that anthology, which is Maverick Kinsey. And I mentioned they are Saturday the 14th and Friends of Dorothy. And because we've now also mentioned David Bowie, they did write another scenario that's called The Man Who Sold the World, which is David Bowie inspired as well.
Excellent.
So stay tuned, folks. It's been a pleasure, as always, to be able to provide this content as we're celebrating our Pride here in June, and we're going to keep doing what we can. And our goal here is to survive and outlast. So stay tuned, be well, and be safe.
Thank you for tuning in for Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. Be sure to join your host, Perry Clark, for another episode on the podcast coming soon on the Voice America Empowerment Channel.
Discover the power of music to heal and uplift. Introducing NeuroVibe, where rhythm meets recovery. NeuroVibe fuses ambient music textures with rhythmic layers to create music that goes beyond relaxation. It's crafted to resonate deeply, perfect for relaxation, self-reflection, or therapeutic sessions. NeuroVibe invites you to connect with your inner self through immersive sound. Explore NeuroVibe today on SoundCloud and experience the transformative power of music. Tune in, find your vibe, and discover what NeuroVibe can do for you. For more information, check out NeuroVibe on SoundCloud today at soundcloud.com/NeuroVibe-brainspotting. NeuroVibe is intended for general wellness and relaxation purposes and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Explore NeuroVibe now on SoundCloud. Dive in, find your rhythm, and feel better with NeuroVibe.